You better start today. Hoda and Jenna. Hoda and Jenna. It's the only way. Hoda and Jenna. Hoda and Jenna. They make you feel like everything's okay and put a smile up on your face. Let's celebrate. Hoda and Jenna.
Everybody, welcome in. It's December the 26th.
Oh, gosh.
It's a Thursday, the day after Christmas.
Yeah, we hope y'all had a very Merry Christmas. It's Boxing Day. I don't know.
When you throw stuff
that
away?
happens in the it's in the UK.
What does that mean? Throw the boxes away?
I don't know, but I just know that it is.
Okay.
All right. Well, today's show is all about great conversations.
I actually love this topic.
Me
don't
too.
You? Yeah. We both like to have. I think you and I can both have a deep, meaningful conversation and be cracking up all within the same 5 or 10 minutes. Like it happens like that. That's when you know that it's right. And have you ever tried to spark a good conversation with someone and then there's nothing
back.
coming back?
And then you're like, feel over.
Alone.
I mean, this is what I do, and I'm afraid you do this too.
What's that?
Is that then all of a sudden our energy is just up?
It's up.
You know, and we're like tap dancing.
trying to dazzle a stranger.
Anything, batting the eyelashes. Surely we can make this work, but then it just
Sometimes it doesn't. But I think the key to me to being a good conversationalist or to keep a conversation going is it's a simple thing. It's like to be curious. And I remember I went to a event one time with someone who I was dating at the time, and he said, "Oh my gosh, well, I'm sitting at this table with so and so. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? How am I going to?" Yeah. And I said, "Well, you don't have to really say anything. People love to tell their stories, and they're actually interesting to listen to."
Don't you feel like the friends, and we have this, and I'm going to miss it so much, where it's like you come in and you're like, I have so much to tell you.
I know, and guess what? We've been apart for 24 hours. We're like, you're not going to believe.
So much to tell you,
That's
and
what
then
I
you
feel
kind of unleash your soul.
Yes.
And then you're back to whatever it is you're doing.
Let me ask you this. When you tell your weekend story, you tell it once to somebody. Let's pretend it was late night, you didn't get a chance to catch up with Henry.
Yes.
So you come here and you tell the story. Do you, sometimes I feel like the story's been told and then to retell it again.
Yes.
So sometimes there's one person that ends up getting all the stuff, and that's you.
That's you, because Henry usually is living my weekends with me.
Yes.
So and maybe I'll tell him a thing or two, but no, by the time I open my mouth to talk about what's happened, it's all directly at you. I feel like Talia or somebody has got to get prepared just to be unleashed on.
It's going to be good.
Lots of chats.
All right.
Okay, Issa Rae was recently on the Naked Beauty podcast, and she said that she thinks many men struggle to have good conversations.
Men do.
Men, because they don't ask each other enough questions. Take a look.
And a lot of men don't know how to have good conversations. I'm not trying to...
No, this is all fair. They don't ask follow-up questions.
Yeah, but they don't do that with each other. I feel like that's why men aren't good friends to each other.
My husband will be like, "Oh, they're moving to New Mexico." I'm like, "Why are they moving?" "I don't know." I'm like, a huge life change. Did you ask any follow-up?
Pisses me off. Literally, I was talking to somebody who's talking about his friend's marriage just fell apart, and I was like, "Oh man, why was it was it another woman? He was like, "Oh, I didn't ask all that."
It's so true.
I think men can be just very simple about it.
Yes.
And they don't I feel like we crave more
the details.
And I think it didn't work. What difference does it make? It didn't work.
I know.
I think we like to know the whys and stuff.
It's so funny. Poppy wrote this whole text, which is hilarious because she's in 3rd grade. She's like, "Dear Charlie, you're my best friend. I want to just let you know how much I adore you and you're beloved. And I love you. Love, Poppy." And Ollie wrote back is, "Want to play Roblox?" And it was the perfect example of
By the way, you're totally right.
Unleashing.
You give your heart and soul and they go, "Cool."
Yeah, unleash.
Cool. I think all guys have to do is ask a question, and it can be a very simple one, which is one we use often in conversations, which is, tell me more. I had a rough day at work. Oh, instead of "Oh, really? What?" Tell me more. Don't solve it. Just tell me more.
Yeah.
Just keep saying it. And by the time it's over, she will have solved the problem. You will get the credit, and that's it. Like, it'll be.
Wait, that's so funny that you say that, because I do think men want to fix.
Yes.
They feel
Fixers.
like protecting and fixing. I mean, I think we have that type of energy a little bit too.
Yeah, we do.
Male energy.
True.
But what I've sort of realized, and like I just start this conversation with it. Like, I'll be like, listen, I know you're going to want to fix this, but I just need to be heard. I just need to be heard. There's no way to fix it. And then Hoda's leaving. You know, and then some tears, and he's like, "Whoa, we got to find you a replacement." I said, "No, I said
not yet.
I just need you to hold it.
Calm.
Hold.
Jenna and friends.
Hold.
Jenna and friends.
Hold.
Hold me.
Hold.
Hold me. Hold me. Hold me.
Hold.
All right. Okay. There's this party game that everybody loves, and it's called
We're Not Really
Strangers. Friendship Edition. So the game says it's for your friends. So let's see. So I'm gonna take.
It's going to deepen our connection.
Deepen our connection. Okay. Here it is. If you could relive an iconic day in our friendship, what would it be?
Ooh, well, if I'm honest. You remember the day we went into that cold plunge? January 5?
No,
I would like to relive it, because I'd like to be holding your hand and running with you and looking over and saying, let's go, let's dive.
You turned that into a positive. All right.
What about you?
We'll pick one. You do another one.
Oh, okay. You want me to ask a different question? This is level 3. What song makes you think of me?
I think it's not a song, it's a dance. I think it's, whenever I think of you in music, I think of your Jenna dance that you always do, you know, that one.
Where there's zero rhythm?
Yeah. There's something about whenever a song comes on, you're like, ooh, 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 and you do your whatever that is. I love that so much, and it reminds me of you no matter what song comes on.
I love it.
All right.
All right.
We got a great show for you today. Hollywood icon Pamela Anderson stops by. She's got her first ever cookbook.
Plus, Emmy and Golden Globe winning actress and comedian Ali Wong.
But first, a conversation with Trevor Noah, the TV host, talks about his new children's book and advice he got from Jon Stewart that he says he'll never forget. Right after this.
I like this.
Trevor Noah is an Emmy-winning comedian and TV host who spent 7 years at the helm of The Daily Show.
He's also a New York Times bestselling author, and he stopped by recently to talk about the inspiration behind his beautiful children's book, Into the Uncut Grass. Take a look. How are you a poet? What's happening in that brain of yours?
That's so kind. No. I wish.
You are.
This book, by the way, we both have it. Our kids have been reading it. And I have to say, it captivates children. But I am so enjoying reading it to my daughter. This is so full of life lessons. This isn't a rhymey children's book like that.
No, it
This
isn't.
is real stuff.
No, this isn't. So, first of all, thank you very much. That's my first audience, genuinely, is kids. And every time I get a review from a child, I take it the most seriously.
Yeah.
So when parents are like, I like it, I'm like, thank you.
Thank you.
But I'm like, what do your kids think?
Yes.
And because I wanted to write a book that an adult would appreciate, but then a kid would truly feel and find something that would resonate with them, you know? And because I think of all the books I read when I was a child, they shaped me, you know? And the books that I enjoyed most were the ones that I go back to now as an adult, and I realized how many layers I missed.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many parts of the story where I was like, oh, I didn't notice that as a kid.
Yeah.
When I was a child, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was just about chocolates.
Yes.
As an adult, I'm like, is this a critique of capitalism? What is this? Do you know what I mean? It's an entirely different conversation.
Salt? Like,
It
who
really
is
is.
she?
It really is.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to write a book that children could read and enjoy by themselves, parents could read with children, adults could read by themselves, and I wanted it to look beautiful as well. So if you have it on a bookshelf or somewhere in your house,
Well,
it looks
by
good.
the way, it was on my desk, and who is the author that we love who did
The
The Boy, the
Mole.
Wolf?
Oh,
the
my
thing?
goodness, I love him so much.
It reminded us of that. Like, I thought it was from him.
Yes.
Thank you.
I
And
love books like that.
Yes, it is gorgeous. And I also, you know, as somebody that loves books, books have shaped my life, it reminds me of like The Giving Tree or
thank you.
Into
Wow.
the Night
That
Kitchen.
means a lot. Thank
because
you.
it's about the imagination that kids have that we can lose.
Well, I think it's about two things really.
Yeah.
You know, so the story is Into the Uncut Grass.
Yeah.
And really simply, it's the story of a little boy who doesn't want to make his bed.
Yes.
And so he leaves home. He's like,
Yes.
I'm leaving,
Goodbye.
I'm gone. But his definition of leaving is just running into the backyard and finding a new world.
Yes.
You know. And the story is about two things. One, it's about parents and children and the communication that we sometimes lack between the two.
Yes.
You know, as a child, I don't know if you remember, but you really were trying to do your best. And sometimes your parents didn't think you were. Because adults are living as adults. They're like, why did you do that? And why didn't you do that? As a child, you're like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. You know, and the second thing I wanted to do was take a really simple look at conflict resolution.
Yeah.
Like, how do we resolve conflict with other people? How do we live in a world where we don't agree? And how do we find the means to agree? Is it possible to do that? And if we can, what are some of the tools? And it's a lot simpler than we think.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you always get there.
Yeah.
But if you apply them, you find it's a lot easier than we make it out to be.
Seems like it could be timely.
I know. You have such a beautiful road, this life that you're on.
Wow, thank you.
And I feel like you have so many, I feel like it's kind of like riding waves. Like you ride one wave until you're on top of it. And then that wave goes down. Then you're like, you know what? I'm going to swim out here.
Wow, this sounds familiar.
I'm going to catch another wave. And you've caught the podcast wave, the book. Like you're riding.
I love it.
Do you love it? Tell us.
I genuinely love it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and that's part of what inspired the title for Into the Uncut Grass. You know, I always say with one of my best friends, you know, you can walk down any path you choose, but nothing interesting really happens on a path that's known.
Yeah.
You know, it's always the unknown path that'll surprise you the most. And it's not always good. Sometimes it's bad, but the bad also brings something in your life. And as long as you survive the bad, I think you get something from it. So I'm just trying to like find journeys where I learn something new. I explore a different side of myself. I challenge myself in new ways. I don't want to get too comfortable because then I feel like that's when you stagnate.
Well, is that why you left The Daily Show? I mean, you won an Emmy the year you left. We've yet to do that. But
there's still time.
I think everybody, there was like this collective gasp because everybody just thought like, oh, he's going to do this for a decade longer.
Right.
At least.
I'm asking because I'm, going through some personal things myself.
I can imagine.
But was that a scary leap? Or
Definitely.
Was that...
Yeah, definitely.
What went into the decision?
Yeah.
Anytime you change...
Like, why did you decide to do it? Because you felt like you had...
So you see, okay, so this is something I've realized, and this is not a criticism, but it's something I've realized in America.
Yes.
Like, in America, nothing is supposed to end. Right? I don't know how to explain it, but it's like nothing is supposed...
No, it's like that's why we can't even talk about death as a culture.
It's just like nothing is supposed to end. And I realized, especially in the past few years, since I've been able to travel more back to South Africa and travel around the world, is like things come to an end. You have a journey, it's beautiful and it has its ups and its downs, and then at some point you go, this is the end of the journey, and you want to try something different. You want to try something new.
Was there a moment that made you think?
One moment? No, I'd be lying. I'd be lying. I think it was a combination of things. First of all, I'd been at The Daily Show for 8 years, hosting for 7. We did the pandemic from home, and that was, you remember what that was like. And we were one of the first shows that went sort of back on air in the pandemic.
Yes. Sure.
And so you have this concentrated idea of working and doing the show and making it. And Jon Stewart really gave me some of the best advice. He said to me, make sure you leave before you become, metastasized in the way you think about it. Make sure you leave before you become cynical. Make sure you leave before you're tired, before you feel like you need to rest in the space. And I'm really glad that I did that.
And you can check out Trevor's book, Into the Uncut Grass, at today.com/books.
Coming up next, one of Hollywood's most famous actresses, Pamela Anderson, gives us a peek into her home life right after this. Pamela Anderson has been a pop culture icon for decades, but it really feels like this is her moment. She recently stopped by to talk about her new cookbook called I Love You, Recipes from the Heart.
We had an incredible conversation about love, her family, her regrets, and why she decided to stop wearing makeup. Take a look. Before you even sat down, you said something funny, and Jen and I both agreed afterwards. You said, when we're talking about Mariah Carey and lighting, you said, who cares about lighting?
Just 90s.
Just be free.
I said, let the makeup go, let the lighting go. I feel so free.
That's what you said. That's such an amazing thing.
Yeah. Because, HD doesn't do any of us any favors. I just don't
care.
No, I know I'm going to have a little more time for myself than trying to, keep up with the Joneses or chase youth or anything. I feel like I do feel free, and it was a choice. And I feel great. I feel good in my own skin.
Was that a choice that came after many, many years, or was there a moment where you were just like, what am I doing?
I was at Paris Fashion Week, and I was getting ready, and it was about to be 3 hours in hair and makeup, and I thought, I just really want to go to the Louvre. I want to see Paris, and who am I competing with? Why am I doing this? And so I said, I'm just going to go out. I'm just not going to wear makeup. I didn't realize it was going to be a big deal. I didn't realize that it was going to resonate with so many people. I had people coming up to me and thanking me, bringing their little girls to me and saying, introducing me as, see this woman. Like it's just really interesting to see the ripple effect it's had. But I did it for myself.
Yes.
I did it for myself just to say, I'm good enough as I am, and I don't need to chase this impossible dream. And that was the great parallel too with the character I got to play in The Last Showgirl, is, you know, this discounted, disregarded, you know, person who's trying to take her power back in her own way. It was really sweet. It was really, everything is cathartic, everything is therapy in this business, I think, and I just feel like the stars are aligning and the dots are connecting.
A lot of people are defined by their youth, whether they won a Super Bowl or won a gold medal or won an award, at acting. And I so admire you. As I'm looking at you, I'm like, I feel like.
Oh, thank you. Oh, well, we don't want to be defined by our worst decisions either. You know, it's funny how what we are defined by.
But I think it is, like, I keep using this word repotting. It's like pulling yourself up by the roots. They're dangling. You're scared, and then you get into fertile ground, which is where you are in your life. It's in a million places.
Well, I get chills. I mean, gardening is such a metaphor. You know, to get back to your roots and to see how vegetables grow from seeds, and just it's such a miracle. And I feel like my garden saved me. I did my 3 or 4 years ago when I moved back home, and I renovated my little vegetable farm. As I was renovating, felt like that's what I was doing that for myself too. And so over those last 3 years, I feel like I've just, I don't know, it just feels like a whole, it's the next chapter.
Yeah.
And, you know, not too many people get second chances, even first chances in this whole industry. You know, I've always wanted to be an actress, and so I'm really happy that I get to do that. I'm glad that, you know, and when it rains, it pours. I mean, we didn't plan on having the cookbook come out and the movie come out and everything, but that's just how it works, and so you just embrace it all.
When you look at your history and all the things that you've done, a lot of times, like, we all look back on our history and say, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I'm glad I did that. Do you have regrets when you look back?
Well, I look back and think I would have done things differently, but I needed that life experience to bring me to this point to realize I might have done those differently. So I mean, you can't really have those regrets. But of course, looking back, I wish this and I wish that. I wish I could have been, you know, more present for my kids, or I wish, you know, I would have put more effort into my career at certain times and really kind of fight back. But I'm doing it now, and I have all the energy in the world. I look at my mother, who's, you know, she's in her 70s, and she has more energy than me. Yeah. So look out.
Yes. I saw this beautiful clip of you talking about how this film scared you, that there was fear. But then instead of just saying, well, I'm scared of it, no, you said, there's fear and I'm going to jump into it. And I feel like, I was like, God, I want to show that to my girls. Scary things are okay, you know?
Yes, it's usually those things are the things that are tempting you to change. So feel the fear and do it anyway.
That's exactly what you said.
And that's what the girls on the movie too, Karen and Brenda, said that, you know, they watched me do that. You could see me, you know, struggle with certain things and then just do it. And so that's what they took away from it. And yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you grow, because we can all get stuck in these habits. I think even with, like I said, eating plant-based, just habits, you know, we're used to eating meat and dairy products, and how do I cook without it? I went through all those things, so that's what I was able to hopefully be able to bring in this book, and my little bits of writing here and there.
It's just so beautiful. And that poem,
the soulmate poem,
we read it this morning. That poem is so beautiful. You're such a beautiful writer.
Oh, thank you. Well, I do my little open journal. I write. You know, my kids encourage me to do that too, so I don't send them annoying long emails every day. You know, with quotes from poets and everything. They're like, Mom, can you just please write something else?
Can I ask you about love? Because this is interesting. I think sometimes when a heart gets broken, it gets harder. I mean, that seems to happen. You're somebody who's had a lot of love in your life, but you're open. I think it was Smokey Robinson who said, wow, you're
a romantic.
You're a romantic. But how did it not get hardened because of life?
Well, I don't look at any relationship as a failure. And they have times, and maybe they're not as long-lasting as you'd like them to be. But also, what is a failure? Is it a failure to stay in a relationship that isn't good for you, or is it so when people say failed marriages, I get like I don't look at them as a failure. I look at them as I did the right thing, eventually. And you know, and also I am a romantic, and I'm not bitter, I'm not jaded, and I'm open-hearted. And like I said, I would have done things maybe differently looking back at this point in my life. But I feel this is the best time in my life. I feel so strong. I feel so excited and inspired, and things are going so well.
I can feel that from you.
Oh, good.
It's vibing.
It's vibing. And like I said, I'm letting go of the things that really kind of held me back before.
Yeah,
and I feel good.
I mean, if you look at these pictures in the cookbook and you're like, was that who you always were? But then there was a culture that said, wear the makeup, do the, you know, and you had a role that was...
Well, it's great to be a part of pop culture, but it can be a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
You know, to be loved one way, you know, in the red bathing suit, or even like the, you know, whatever, those crazy, wild, you know, fashion moments I had. And but yes, I've always been this girl, and I always felt like I was playing characters. So I wanted to be the best rock star wife. I wanted to be the best Baywatch, you know, the best Playboy playmate. But now I am me. I'm more me than I've ever been.
By the way, Pamela is getting Oscar buzz for her new movie, The Last Showgirl, which hits theaters nationwide January 10th.
And you can pick up her cookbook, I Love You, Recipes from the Heart, at today.com/books or wherever you get your books.
Coming up next, actress and comedian Ali Wong shares some life lessons and laughs from her Netflix comedy special after this.
Ali Wong is an Emmy and Golden Globe winning actress and comedian. And if you ever need a good laugh, all you have to do is check out her Netflix comedy special. It's called Single Lady.
And there's no shortage of material in her personal life. She stopped by recently to talk about all of it, including her friendship with her ex-husband and the pressures of being a working mom in entertainment. Take a look. First of all, I feel like you got divorced. You talk about this in your special, but you had such a such a wonderful divorce. It's like kind of taking
Nobody
a play,
has
but
that.
no, she did.
I
She
know, but-
consciously uncoupled.
I did. I think, you know, I mean, it's interesting because for my first special, Baby Cobra, when I got pregnant, a lot of people thought, like, because at that time, a lot of the female comics that I knew locally, like, when they would get pregnant, you kind of wouldn't see them again because, you know, when you go on the road, you're not super famous, then you're kind of either breaking even or you're losing money for childcare. You know, so it was like a lot of, you know, moms felt like it wasn't worth it. That was like, you know, kind of what my perspective was before. And then once I did my special pregnant, I had a kid, it wasn't the end of my career. It was like this expansive, beautiful beginning to like a whole new
What made you decide to do that special when everyone was saying, it's not worth it, don't do it?
Because I was like, if I don't do it now, I don't think I'm ever going to do it. Because I'm just going to keep waiting for the special to like be the right time for it to get better. And I was like, no, this is the right time, you know?
And that really
was your
catapulted.
that was it.
Catapulted your
so
career.
like with divorce, I'm like, it's the same thing where people look at it as this like sad ending. And that's just not been the case for me. It's been this like beautiful beginning to so many new adventures, and one being, you know, sincerely my friendship with the father of my children. So
you've remained close. How did you do that? And most people, when they have a divorce, it's contentious. It can be awkward. What'd you do?
No, I always felt like I've just always been like that. Like I'm friends with exes from my 20s in college.
Okay.
And one of them lives in Vietnam now, and I was just talking to him on the phone, and I've just always been like that. I think because my siblings all went through multiple serious relationships before they got married, I kind of always knew to not take it too seriously. Okay, you know, there's value in every relationship, and you learn something new from every person about what you like, what you don't like. And to be grateful to them for that, you know, to be like, you know, we had some like bad times towards the end, but for the most part, it was great.
It was good. You have young kids, and Lauryn Hill was kind of instrumental in giving you advice. So what did she tell you?
She told me when I met her, because I was like, how do you tour with your kids? And she said, well, it's all because of her. And she pointed to her mom. And for me, that's the same. You know, my mom, unfortunately, she got sick when we went to Australia. very crazy story. No one's ever heard of this before. Her kidney fused with her intestine.
Wait, what?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah, and it was very, they don't know what to do about it. But she's okay right now.
Okay.
But I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do without my mom.
Yeah.
And actually, the mother of my ex-husband comes often too, because her and my mom are still best friends.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
But it's just like all the women that lift us up and have come before.
Yeah.
Ali,
we're before and give us free childcare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love you.
Do you know how obsessed we are with you?
We are obsessed. We are obsessed with her. You can watch Ali's comedy special, Single Lady, on Netflix now.
Coming up next, one of my favorite conversations of this year with Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Don't go away.
Back now with more of the guests who have enlightened us this year, and one amazing woman who Jenna got to sit down with, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson.
I was so honored when she stopped by to talk about her new memoir, Lovely One. Hoda was off, so I was joined by Chanel, and we had an amazing conversation with Justice Jackson about her extraordinary life and career. Take a look. Justice Jackson, good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely One. It's a beautiful title for your life. It is also what your name means.
It is. So I was born in 1970, and my aunt was in the Peace Corps in Africa. And my parents, who grew up in segregation but had a very fierce pride in our African-American heritage, asked my aunt to send African names. And they chose Ketanji Onyeka, which they were told means lovely one.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, we know representation matters. I remember being at home when I was a little girl and seeing a woman of color on the news, and I was like, ooh, I want to do that. And now you never know. There may be a young girl or a young person of color, and they see you and they say, ooh, I want to do that. How long did you know you wanted to go into law? Is it something you've always had on your heart, or?
Oh, going into law from the very beginning of my memories. I talk about that in the book. And my father went back to law school when I was young, and we lived on the campus of the University of Miami Law School, and we would sit together while he was studying, I was coloring, and I always thought that law was something that I wanted to do.
I mean, you always thought that, and we do a lot of manifesting segments on the show, but I'm not sure there's ever been one quite so powerful. In your high school yearbook, you basically wrote that this is the dream you wanted to have, and then you went on to do it in your Harvard graduation book, too.
Yes.
So you felt this in you.
I did. When I was in middle school, I came across the story of Constance Baker Motley. You talk about having role models, and she was the first African-American federal judge. And we happened to share the same birthday. And that was so powerful to me as a connection with her. And the fact that I'd already been interested in law really made me feel like, well, maybe I can be a judge.
Yes.
And it was around the same time that Justice O'Connor was appointed. So then there was a woman judge on the Supreme Court, and I think it just went on from there in terms of my interest.
There comes a time in our lives sometimes where you go to school, you're doing all the things, and you're like, I got this, I'm doing this, and all of a sudden this little voice, this imposter syndrome comes. Did you have a specific experience, and then also, how do you overcome that?
Well, I did. I had that imposter syndrome voice happen to me when I was a freshman in college, and that happens a lot, I think.
Yes.
It was in September, right at the beginning of the school year. It was my birthday coming up. I was feeling like out of sorts. I'd come from Florida, from Miami, big public high school, and here I was in, Harvard, and I was feeling very like maybe this is not the right choice. And I was walking on a path right in the yard, and a woman passed me, a black woman I didn't know. And as we passed, she must have seen it on my face, and she leaned over and said, persevere.
Oh, that part in the book.
It was just like, oh.
Talk about like a guardian angel or just an angel.
It really felt like it. It absolutely.
Oh, it's, Harvard was important for many reasons. One of which, I think, I said this earlier in reading your book, I didn't expect it to be such a love story. This book is a love story about your parents' love for you, which was so powerful, your love for your daughters, but also you have a pretty romantic, lovely love with your husband, and you write this, and I feel this way about my husband. You don't know that you would be here.
Oh, absolutely.
Without him.
Absolutely. I mean, the support that he has given me, the fact that he was the one, you talked about manifesting. I mean, he said when he was training as a resident and first getting into medicine that we needed to be in Washington, D.C. because I was going to be on the Supreme Court one day.
There was a time during here, the process where you write about, and I told your husband, you said, I looked over at him and he gave me a sense of safety and calm.
Yes.
And I wrote that down in my notes section. I thought, oh, God, what a partner for you to be able to look across the room and feel that.
You know, and he's here, and I just have to ask, because I think he was trying to kind of, first of all, he's like me. He's like me. He cries at everything. But also, I think he was trying to kind of get your attention, and you hadn't dated before, so you were like, what?
I did not know what was going on. We met in a class, and he would sit behind me. It was one of those stadium seating kind of deals, and he would put his feet on my chair and tap on my shoulder, and you know.
She wasn't getting the picture.
The awkward aspect of being a teenager trying to get attention.
Yes. You weren't getting the picture. Well, I think your love is really, really beautiful. We talked a little bit about your daughters, your beautiful girls, and I love that your younger daughter wrote up a letter. Not only was she supportive, but she wrote a letter to President Obama. And this is what she said. I have to read some of it if you guys can go back so I can. She said, she is determined, honest, and never breaks a promise to anyone, ever. If there are other things she'd rather do, she can demonstrate commitment and is loyal and never brags. I think she would make a great Supreme Court justice.
She did. She wrote that when she was 11.
What?
And she was just determined to let the president know because she had come to me and said, you know, I think you should apply for the job of Supreme Court Justice. This is after Justice Scalia died. And I said, you can't apply for that job. And she said, well, I'm going to tell the president who you are.
That's amazing.
There's much more of our conversation with Justice Jackson. She tells us what it's really like being on the Supreme Court after this. Back now with more of our conversation with Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She recently stopped by to talk about her beautiful memoir. It's called Lovely One, which also happens to be what her name means.
Jenna and Chanel talked about how she felt making history, being sworn in as the first Black woman on the Supreme Court, and more. Take a look.
Let's go to that day, being sworn in.
Oh my goodness.
As the first.
Yes.
That must have been a dream, and also I can't imagine the weight that must have felt too, like everything at once.
It was so phenomenal, but also overwhelming. You know, I felt obviously proud of the accomplishment, but also so grateful for all of the people and the circumstances that led to this wonderful accomplishment in my life. And that was really why I wrote the book, because I wanted to pay tribute to the people who had gotten me to this point. No one reaches the highest of heights on their own. I say that in the book, and I really felt that on that day.
You know, it's interesting, you know, you talk about certain events in life where you remember where you were, and I just remember during all of it, you know, people were calling people. I remember friends having phones, you know, at work trying to watch. I mean, it was such an event for so many people. Did you feel that? Like it was bigger than you?
I did. It was absolutely bigger than me. And, you know, all of the people who not only reached out to me, but just were there. You know, who people on the street saying, we saw you, keep going, we're supporting you. And so it was really wonderful.
You know, this is an elusive group. It's kind of secretive. None of us really know what happens. There are friendships that are formed that have been widely written about. Have you found it to be a friendly place, as much as you can say?
Well, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's a small group of people, and we have appointments that go on for a very long time, so you have to get to know people. I will say that one of the things that the court does by tradition is the newest justice has a welcome dinner thrown by the justice that immediately preceded him or her. So Amy Coney Barrett threw me a wonderful party, and you try to figure out something personal about the person and make that a part of the party. So she threw a Hamilton-themed dinner. Which was great, and she had a big sign made that said the room where it happens. And she hired a singer to sing songs from the show. So it was really wonderful.
Beautiful.
We're in such a politically divisive climate right now, and if I don't agree with you, then I'm not talking to you. I don't care about your family. But obviously, when you guys are together, you may not agree, and yet and still you can get along. Can you talk a little bit about that and the need for that now?
Oh, absolutely. I talked about tradition on the court, and one of the things that we do is we sit down for lunch. Almost every time that we have a court appearance or a conference, lunch is available for the justices, and the rule is you don't talk about cases. So we learn about people's families, and we talk about sports and movies.
Does that help to not take it personally when you see the other person as a human, even if you disagree?
I mean, that's something that we could all learn from. You know, obviously, there's no secret that the state of the court and the future of the court has been written about a lot. People are worried. What do you say to those people that are reading your book and are watching you?
Well, you know, I think about it in terms of democracy, that, you know, people are engaged now, they're thinking about the court and the form and the function and the structure, and that's really a part of our democratic process. You know, judges are public officials, we're government officials, we're not beyond criticism or constraint, and so people looking at our democracy is really a part of the way we are.
It was such an honor to have Justice Jackson here, and you can pick up a copy of her memoir, lovely one, at today.com/books or wherever you get your books, maybe an indie bookstore.
I think it's a great idea. We'll be back right after this. Coming up tomorrow, Scarlett Johansson and Neil Patrick Harris.
Plus Keke Palmer and SNL's Bowen Yang.
Also, actor and singer Josh Gad.
We'll see y'all Friday.
Bye.